Welcome, everyone, to Heart Snuggles. We're really happy you're here today. And I brought a guest from a community we're both a part of, holisticism, which I always seem to talk about. But yeah, please go ahead and introduce yourself.
Hi, my name is Lacey Dupre, and I am a doctor of Chinese medicine and a craniosacral therapist, and amongst a few other things, a mama and anthropologist and an artist as well. So, yeah, I am so glad to be here and just honored to have this conversation with you.
Oh, wow. I didn't know you were a craniosacral as well and an anthropologist. That's so awesome.
All the things that just stoked my interest, right? We're such
hmm
multifaceted beings and so hard to choose, a path.
I know. Well, you don't have to. That's the best part.
Exactly.
So we start off the podcast with the question, what was the last random act of kindness someone did for you?
Hmm. So my one of my patients just left, and he is this beautiful patient who is like a miracle case, and he brought me a box of saris from. He collects things from all over the world, and he hand wrote on the box, "You have no idea how much you've transformed my world." A box of like beautiful saris, and he was like, "Just decorate your life with them."
Oh,
So out of the blue, beautiful. That literally happened like 20 minutes ago.
oh my
Yeah.
goodness. That's amazing.
Yeah. Yeah.
Cute. Oh,
That's
I
so
love
super
that.
sweet. Super sweet.
Oh, so good. So with acupuncture, I feel like, or sorry, you do Chinese medicine?
Acupuncture is within the scope of Chinese medicine. Yeah.
Yeah. A lot of people might not know about it still. I keep finding because I get it all the time, but like, people are still don't really know. So maybe just tell them a little bit about that and then we'll go into how it can help with grief.
Sure. Wonderful. Yeah. So Chinese medicine is the whole system, right? Like it includes acupuncture, but also herbal pharmacology. And I mean, from what my studies have also included is like dream work, stone medicine, but it's very all encompassing. It has it's a 3,000-year-old medical system, the oldest, most ancient, and efficacious in the world. I have so much reverence for this system, right? It comes from not only China, but it's a traditional East Asian medicine, right? And yeah, so they've brought it over here to us, taught us, and and just open heartedly, right? It's such an exchange of culture, I think. And so I stuck with classical studies, but you can, of course, like combine it with Western stuff and functional medicine, all these things. As an anthropologist, of course, I was always very much in awe and honor of this beautiful ancient system. And so I didn't want to like sully it with like, you know, the, the, the so-called Western viewpoint that I came from, right? It was like I was just in awe of how much my world turned upside down and inside out when I started studying East Asian medicine, because it's not only like their language that's contextual and pictorial, it's their entire way that they view the world. I mean, it is like the holistic medicine, right? And that word right there um, does not even encompass the breadth and beauty that is this system, right? Because it's also, I mean, it includes like Taoist philosophy, right? Um, and as science is catching up to this ancient medicine, like as its forays into like quantum mechanics and all these things, it's like every time I hear some crazy new thing about, science, I have my like air quote science. It's like, oh, actually, yeah, traditional East Asian medicine's been talking about that, that sort of
I
thing.
noticed that too.
Yeah, yeah. So it's yeah, every day it's a new delight, especially with working with patients, right? Because you really are seeing them shift and change as they're being exposed to this medical system and this philosophy, right? So, and I personally practice needle-free acupuncture. That's kind of how I've branded it. But I've studied it's the tool that I use is the most ancient. It's called the Teishin, and it is the first acupuncture needle. there's 9 original needles. And the Teishin is one of those. The other ones have like got lost in the dust of time because they're like for terrible things like scraping or like poking through boils and pustules and all the terrible things that, thank goodness, we don't freaking have to deal with anymore, right? For the most part. So yeah, this is the Teishin, and like, of course, your listeners can't see it, but I'll describe it a little bit. It is, you could say like a giant toothpick or a tiny ink pen, right? That's about the size, about 3 inches. And it does not insert the skin, and it goes right on top. So it is, but it is not acupressure by any means. It is the oldest form of acupuncture, right? And I now kind of call acupuncture, when the needles are inserted, like lazy acupuncture, because it's kind of like, oh yeah, you're just like bunging needles in and walking away, right? And of course, like I'm saying that jokingly. I mean, like I have dear friends who do not practice with the Teishin, and so I love their work. But there's 2 lineages of acupuncture. So I just happen to practice this older one. And as things do over time, right, the West really took on this insertion needling that they saw. And the Western mind, as we know, likes to see things, likes to dissect and think of things mechanically. So, of course, a needle inserting into the body makes more sense, right? So this older practice where the needles do not insert is more subtle and a bit more like esoteric, and but far more potent and efficacious. I've seen, because I practiced for years with needles, and everybody hates needles, and so it was wonderful to study this lineage. And one of my favorite teachers is Dr. Bear, and he is a blind Japanese man. He speaks no English. He fills the room with light, totally blind, right? So he's like the perfect teacher to teach insertion free, because it's like, I mean, he's not going to poke you or anything. You know what I mean?
Oh gosh.
So lovely. So yeah, that's just a little brief introduction on the style that I practice.
I've never heard of that.
Yeah, I know. No one ever has. And it's gaining in more popularity. You know, it's called the Teishin is the tool. And I'm a silversmith, and I make them myself and sell them to other practitioners. Yeah.
Amazing. Do you know any over here in Southern California?
Oh, let's see. I did have several colleagues there, because I lived in San Diego for 10 years. And yeah, I'll have to think if they're still there. People in Southern California, we just move around too much, you know? But yeah, let me think on that and get back to you on any practitioners that are still there.
Yeah, I'd love to try it.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. That's so beautiful. And I just love learning, because I've gone to acupuncture for years now. I've never heard of that. So it's like I'm always finding out more. And also my newest acupuncture, because I just moved here, does dream stuff. He was like asking me what elements are in my dreams. And I was like, wait, what? Like, what does this mean? And so that is so cool too. So maybe could you just briefly touch on that? Because I think it's really interesting. And then we'll get into the other stuff.
Sure, of course. And I love that your new acupuncturist is analyzing your dreams, or maybe not in like the Carl Jung sense, analyzing, but he might be, or she might be, right? Because that is part of it. So you can't have a holistic medicine without looking at dreams, because, I mean, first of all, we're asleep for a third of our lives, hopefully 8 hours a day. And it's not like it's real life and not real life. It's the waking life and the dream life. And you can't look at that just the waking life. You're just looking at a portion of the person. And there is so much in the dream time, so much to be looked at, just as much as, like, as a Chinese medicine practitioner, I look at your tongue and your pulse and ask you questions about waking life. Dream life has just as much, right? And even sometimes far more symbolically. And the medicine is a very symbolically rich medicine. So it's quite easy to be able to see what's going on. I mean, it's your, and it's also, your subconscious speaking your needs and speaking through you. And like, take, for example, like a nightmare is when you're ignoring something and your body or your subconscious is just finally at the point where it really needs to get the message through. So it starts screaming at you. It's like pain, right? Your body's been telling you subtly in different ways. And then it's just like, well, I'm just going to start yelling at you now to get your attention, So, yeah, very much necessary. And, like working with the Teishin and then dreams and looking at the tongue, it's been wonderful because I've been able to practice virtually online throughout the pandemic. And I've been seeing my patients back in California virtually and, over Zoom and teaching them how to use the Teishin. And that's part of, what I do now. It's crazy, but I actually practice a lot of my time is spent virtually. Yeah.
You're amazing. That is so cool. I must try you out. That is just, wow. I just love that you've been able to shift with the times. And it's almost more empowering now because you get to teach people what you do, which is like the best thing ever because the gift just keeps on giving. So that's for me. I love how things work out like that.
No, and it's so nice empowering others to like take a hold of their own, well-being. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. And you briefly talked about anger there really quickly. And so let's chat more about that because anger definitely can be tangled into grief, and it's something that's really important. And I believe, especially as women, there's no spaces to access anger, and even as men, there's not either because women are so afraid of the anger. So it's like we're both in these cycles where we can't express anger, or we express it at the wrong times.
Yeah, or we express it, like to our loved ones, right? Which hurts. I mean, which totally sucks. I mean, yeah, it's so in any repressed emotion turns in the body into a stagnation, and that is the later cause of dis-ease, right? Disease. Anger sure is a potent one. It's usually the one like on the surface, right? And just as you said, grief below that, fear below that. And anger can be our superpower. I teach my clients about anger as let's access it, let's use it, and it is a stage of grief, right? And the stage I've actually mapped out the stages of grief according to the 5 phases in traditional Chinese medicine, and anger. I think it represents the wood phase. There's fire, earth, metal, water, wood, and earth. I'm sorry, and wood is anger. And that's actually, that correlation there is, that's part of the tradition of Chinese medicine and Taoist philosophy. Wood,
The liver, right?
yeah, exactly. The liver, gallbladder, and wood's all about growth and, taking action, but it's that, that sense of like control or over control and then lack of control. And isn't that where anger comes in, right? Like when we can't access, when we think we want control and we can't have it, or we feel like things are out of control, and it like starts as irritation, and then is anger, and then of course feminine rage, like the fact that we're living in a patriarchal society. And if we express anger as women, we're like hags. And then if a man expresses it, he's powerful, right? And I know that's a little bit polarizing, but I mean, we know that's pretty true. That's the case, which makes us even more pissed.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah,
Yes.
we repress it because of that, because we want to, it's that good girl card that we're trying to play to fit in, which creates more repressed anger. Yeah.
Yeah, that good girl archetype is really hard because it's like anytime you express emotions and you're the crazy girl, and it's just you can never win. And then it's funny too, actually, for men as well. Like, some women will want them to express emotions. As soon as they do them, they're like, "You're being a wussy." It's like, no. It's like we're so entangled into all these beliefs, and so yeah, I think it's super important to do self-acupuncture, like you're saying, and tap into those and release them. Because anytime we suppress anything, it's just, yeah, builds up, and we don't like that.
Right.
And so with grief, since this is a really tricky emotion for people to feel, and this month on the podcast, we've been talking about how grief isn't just through death, but obviously it's immensely through death. But it comes up in other ways, and we don't even probably name it as grief, but we all experience it at some point. And so how do you help people create the space to feel it instead of numb that?
Yeah. So oftentimes when I'm talking to either a client virtually or a patient on my table, grief comes up. I mean, yes, the collective grief we've all been experiencing, but we each have our own instances, right, of grief. And yeah, oftentimes it's a grief, a loss of who I am, who I thought I was, um, and those sorts of things. It's a little bit more personal um, than yeah, I just had somebody die, right? That a loved one. There's so many different variations of grief, and in the collective grief, just the life that I knew once is no longer, never coming back. All the loss, right, that we've been experiencing. I mean, it's just it's really it's traumatic. It really is traumatic. And so the first things we do is we try to name them, and then the I kind of have like a few steps that we go through. Accept it and feel it, because that's the first doorway that opens is to vulnerability, right? And just knowing that when we hold something in, that it's going to create this stagnation within the body that could later like snowball into even more issues or problems, or like a disease or more grief is kind of what I was getting at. When we harbor things, it's not against. I mean, it's against our true nature. So just kind of talking about that acceptance piece, and really feeling it. Like go outside and have a good cry and like really feel the grief and feel like, where does it feel, and like where do you feel it in your body, and where do you experience it during the day? Sometimes it's times of day, like the middle of the night or like 3 p.m. or something like that. Starting to notice where grief appears, right, physically or even within your own day. And then I always say, if you don't want to dance, you don't have to dance, but some kind of movement. I like to picture traditional dancers, how they're just like shaking. And also, when we think about the current research in like polyvagal theory and somatic experiencing, how animals shake off trauma, they shake off stress, and we can do that with grief. And I think that's very well represented in traditional cultures who shake and dance and gyrate all crazy to like wonderful music. I'm like, put on some drumming and just like shake it out. And if you can't do that, you can just do like the whole arm shaking of the hands and then dropping them in your lap, right? It does wonders. It really does, in terms of moving that stuck energy, because grief does, again, like stick and stagnate, right? Then we talk about purpose. So it's like, where's the light within our grief? We can always try to look for that. And being connected and being of service is sometimes just the little lantern that we can hang up and say, oh, I can do that. I can connect to somebody. I can be of service to somebody. And that usually really helps navigate through grief. And being in nature. That's like my favorite one, right? Go out there. She will talk to you. Like, we are her, she is us. We are disconnected from her, from like our devices to our shoes to our like the homes we live in, to our mentality and our mindset, all the things. We are like so disconnected from her, right? So and it doesn't have to be something huge like a weekend of forest bathing. I'm just like, go step in some dirt outside and like make eye contact with a leaf, like look at a leaf, just something that connects you to her for a moment, and you'll start to be in communication with her, with nature. And then we do some self acupuncture, with various points in the body. Yeah,
Oh,
that's kind of my brief navigation through what is a very difficult journey. Yeah.
yeah. And thank you for taking the time to find that and create that for people because, like you said, it's difficult, so you to take the extra time to like find a process to work for people. It takes like extra loving. So thank you.
Yeah.
And would you be willing to show us for people that are watching the video? And if not, like tell us one point that we could do self acupuncture?
I would love that. So probably one of I have two good ones that I love, but I think, yeah, no, I have a favorite one. So it's called large. I know, there's so many, right? Large intestine 20. So the large intestine and the lungs are the two metal organs of the body, and those are the organs that are associated with grief. So we're going to do LI 20 because it's around the nose and it's associated with olfactory as well. And I mean, what better way to navigate grief than to ignite that wonderful sense of smell as well? Because that ties us to that it immediately activates the limbic system whenever you smell something that can bring you back to a good memory or even a bad. So it's a great place to access. So LI 20, if you take your fingertips and place them on the outside of your this is called the nasolabial foot, like your nostrils. There we go.
I was like, do I help you?
That's so funny. I know. So right above and outside of the nostrils. So you're on the outside of your nose, right above the nostrils, kind of where, like if you follow your smile lines that go on either side of your face and your cheeks, and they kind of end right in your nose, right? I'm trying to describe for like podcast listeners. This is LI 20. And when you take the Teishin, you can really feel like a vibration and a potency there. The Teishin is like an antenna, right? But just with your fingers, we can place our fingertips right here, and always use your pointer finger. Yeah, because this is your metal finger. So the it's the finger that's associated with the large intestine. And this point is increases the ability to receive new experiences. So what I like to do, is close the eyes, and I always teach the microcosmic orbit breath. It's a simple breath. It's you inhale through the nose, up the spine. So up your back, the back of your neck, up the back of your head to the top of your head. And then you exhale gently via your nose, and your breath falls down the front of your face and your throat and your heart, down over your belly into your pelvic bowl. And it circles back and dips up through the sacrum as you inhale, up the spine, up the back of the neck, into the top of the head, and down again through all these sinus areas, the throat, the heart, the belly, and back into the pelvic bowl. So it's this orbit within the body. And as you do it, you'll be able to feel when your breath passes between these 2 points as it's coming down. And you're just really feeling and accessing your own chi, right? By placing your fingers here, the gentle breath and the orbit of your own breath, which is chi. And when so the large intestine, its job is to separate the distinguish the essential from the non-essential, right? The metal element cuts away what we no longer need, and the large intestine is that process of letting go, right? So not only are we igniting this olfactory sensation and breathing in the lungs, which is all about reception and vulnerability, right? Like I'm taking it in. But the large intestine then cuts away what you don't need and lets it go. Same with like pooping, right? That's what the large intestine does. It's like, I don't need this anymore. So that's the connection of the lungs and large intestines. And with grief, right? Being again open to receiving new experiences, letting go then what are no longer needed, right? So it's a nice point to do in the mornings or at night in bed, right? Doing a little breath work there with those notions in mind.
That was amazing. Thank you.
Yeah. I
I
love
like that.
little mini practices. That's fun.
Yeah, it's so nice too, because like sometimes people get overwhelmed. They're like, "Well, I don't want to have to learn this whole new thing," and just start small, do something little, and start experiencing the magic already. It's like we don't always have to make an hour for self practice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, precisely. I love that. I always teach a 2-minute protocol. I always at least give a 2-minute protocol as homework. Something
Yes,
so
that's
simple.
perfect.
Mm-hmm.
And will you share a little bit about your grief cafe?
Yes, it's actually I have one coming up soon, and I should have like solidified the date. I could probably do that right now, but it is a free offering, and we all gather on Zoom, and there is no leader, no facilitator, right? Because we're all in this together, and everybody we just go round robin. The only thing I do is I like look on my screen on the Zoom screen and say who's next. Like I say, okay, would you like to go next? And according to like who's on the screen next, and we just share what we are grieving right now, what we've lost, and it's a beautiful way to connect. But when we verbalize and put out there in a group in a sacred container, um, so much healing happens. And like I'm a research scientist as well, so I've seen the science around group healing efforts. But I can also tell you there's like this is like magical spell casting too, to like really help you let go and process and hearing other people's stories. I mean, because we're humans, we're storytellers, right? And so it's not like we're making up new stories. We're sharing our truth, our stories, and there's something so potent in that and so needed that it's just unbelievable how much how much connection and coherence happens on these free circles. Yeah, I have one coming up in early November. It'll probably be the second week in November, and yeah, the best way to find out, I guess, is I guess my Instagram, my email, my website. I wish I had solidified a date before today. It's still up in
It's
the
okay.
air.
That's okay. It'll
Yeah,
be perfect. Whatever
yeah,
day you choose, and people will find you because who's
yeah,
meant for you will always come for you. So that's it's such a great space. And I as well, like the community is everything. And I think connection is vital. And something I really like to help people with as well is creating nourishing connections, because I was surrounded by so many people for my whole life that weren't actually true community. And when you are able to experience that, it is life changing. And I
yeah.
think during this past 2 years, a lot of people have been afraid of one another. And that's like so hard for me, knowing how powerful connection is and how much it means to me. And so, really, this like we need to somehow bring people back together because it is so potent.
Absolutely. I love that. And same, I was too often surrounded by people who were not my community, who were not nourishing me or like, are like my ideals about how I wanted to live. And I think that goes back to patriarchal tendencies, right? And like good girl
Hmm.
shit. Oh, sorry. And I'm
No, you can
not
swear.
curse, right?
No, it doesn't matter on this podcast.
Yeah. Yeah. It's a rough road. Yeah. And I'm so grateful that you are creating that here. This
Hmm.
is a safe place for us to come and talk and connect. And this community is such a beautiful one. the connections that you've created here.
Yeah, I feel so grateful. And just, it's a nice way to like podcasts in particular have helped me throughout my whole life. And I just always remember like, I want to one day have one. And here I am. Like, it's just so fun, but they're so powerful and like anyone can have one. And I think that's so beautiful. It's like, you don't have to have a certain qualification or level of anything. It's just like, you can have it and everyone has something to share. And as the host, it's like, I get to bring out the gifts of people that I like really see. And some people that are like, well, I've never been on a podcast. I'm like, it doesn't matter. We all have wisdom and we can all be a listener and a teacher. And the listeners be able to listen to people from all different backgrounds. It's just so fun. So yeah, I really appreciate you being here and being a part of this community and sharing your community with this one. And I'm excited to see them intertwine.
Oh, me too. Me too. I'm very excited for that. Yeah. Thank you so much for having me here. Yeah. It's been a lovely conversation. And I love talking about the difficult emotions. I mean, because, we could hang out and talk about fun things, which I love. But when we really have conversations that connect us heart to heart, that's where the magic is. And I think that is where podcasting is. That's how it's so magical, right? It's that it's a heart space. That's what good conversations do, is they shift us. And I too have been healed by podcasts, like literally.
Yeah, I know. Like so many revelations have happened. I'm like, what? So yeah.
Just the way somebody put something, like the way they say it resonates. Oh my gosh, so good.
Yeah, like that's another concept I was just talking about a friend. It's like a lot of the concepts have just been recycled year after year after year. It's like no one's really coming up with anything new, but it's just how they present it. And anyways, we need to hear things 100 times sometimes for it to land, or just as a reminder, because life is so busy. So yeah, it's so nice to hear from everyone's voice.
So true.
Thank you again. And just for clarity, what's your links that people can find you at? And what are you offering right now as well?
Oh, well, thank you. So my website is my name, LaceyDupre.com. So it's LaceyDupre.com. Everything's there. And I am doing a holiday bundle where it's you get your own magic wand, the Teishin, and a booklet, as well as a little facial elixir potion of potent Chinese medicine to put on the points, and a private podcast that goes with it to teach you a little bit about how to use it. And then I also, of course, have virtual sessions that I do one-on-one sessions with people. And I am soon launching my program called Activation, which, because I found so much efficacy with group healing, that I had to create that space because it's incredible to be with other people through this journey, So that'll be available soon. And Instagram, I'm at Dr. Lacey Dupre, and there's like dots between that, dr.lacey.dupre. So I'm mostly there in my website, and then through my email list, right? So jump on. I have a lot of freebies on my website, and I rarely email you. So there's no spam, just some gems.
Yay. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. This has been a wonderful conversation. Thanks for allowing me to share as well. I so appreciate it.
Yay.